But there may be opportunities here with some underneath plays, right? You talked about guys out of the slot, even with the Jamison Williams. If you don't have the middle open with all the linebackers the 49ers have, that might be the way to get Amon-Ra St. Brown involved in the offense a little bit different, as opposed to trying to throw the ball deep against the 49ers team that can really stop it.
Yeah, I agree. I also like the yards. We were talking about that with James Coe. Over 85.5 receiving yards. This is one of those situations, though, where I would probably go with the same game parlay and then maybe go 70.
Drop it down.
Drop it to 70. Yep. I ended up getting
Which, by the way, real quick, though, I did that last week.
And I went to
70,
right?
and it went to, no, the parlay did end up hitting.
No, I'm saying that, and that hit, but anything over that would not have hit.
I took 70 plus, and he had 77.
Yes.
And so I was like, thank God I did that.
Yeah, so I think that 84, and it's now down to 84.5 as we speak. It has gone from 85.5 to 84.5 like in the last 30 seconds. It's now juice minus 120 to the over. So I think that number might continue to creep down. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, probably it goes down. That's what I would say there. Yeah.
I saw it at 86.5 when we were talking to James Coe. It's gone down 2 full yards in the last hour.
We talk about stuff on the show and they move the lines.
We're sharpers.
Happened multiple times with this.
Yeah. Just, us market movers.
Yeah, 80. So it's 84.5 right now, right?
Yeah, it is.
Minus 120. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet a couple things. I didn't do anything there. I bet. All right, so
you like Ayuk?
I do. I didn't play that though. It's a big number.
It is.
It is 80.
Yeah, I didn't do that one.
At least that hasn't moved.
I went over on Christian McCaffrey, and I still like that at 36.5 minus 120. I don't think Debo plays. If he does, I don't think he's going to be fully healthy. McCaffrey went over both times, and even had 7 receptions against the Packers last week, but only for 30 yards. I like Jamison Williams over 27.5 yards. I did that over the receptions because the receptions are priced 2.5. And
he's been having 2 like the last 4 games.
Yeah, I'd rather just go with the yards because he's only going to run a couple routes. He's the guy that could take the top off the defense. And I like David Montgomery over 5.5 receiving yards. That could be 1 reception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm going to go under, actually, on the receptions for one Jahmyr Gibbs. I went under 3.5, which is minus 125. But I like Gibbs rushing yards, and I like a Gibbs anytime touchdown.
George Kittle, and then George Kittle again, and then probably George Kittle again. I like a Kittle anytime. I like Kittle over receiving yards. I love this guy. And again, there's a little bit of me that acknowledges I'm banking on that bet on Debo not playing, right? Like if Debo's out, we saw that last week. Debo comes in, he's got 2 grabs, he goes down with the shoulder. George Kittle becomes the monster that you run up the seam to keep everybody in shape. I love George Kittle. I'm all over Jahmyr Gibbs too. Like I think Jahmyr Gibbs had a little bit of a coming out party last week, and I think if you're Detroit, you lean on him. The only thing that scares me about that is if San Francisco knocked off the ring rust, and if they come out and score quickly, Detroit might have to get away from the run a little more quickly than they would like to, right? And that scares me a little bit. But I think you can also go over the passing total with Jared Goff because of that. I think if San Francisco's going to jump up early, and I believe they will, now Detroit's got to throw the ball. So now Jared Goff and now Amon-Ra St. Brown have their overages in play as well. So I'm probably going to look at playing Kittle. I'm probably going to look at the Detroit Lions passing numbers all over the field because I do think they are going to end up with their back against the wall, and I do think they're going to have to start slinging it in the second half, and that might prop those numbers up a little bit.
Look at Detroit as a whole. I mean, clearly we know that backfield. There is Jahmyr Gibbs. There's the David Montgomery split between the two. How have you been approaching that with them? Have you been kind of cautious? Has it been more about maybe like rushing plus receiving with Jahmyr Gibbs? Because doesn't it kind of feel like week after week it's a little bit up and down, except for a David Montgomery touchdown maybe, and then Jahmyr Gibbs maybe more as a receiver. I feel like it's been kind of tough to gauge kind of what you're going to get week by week from that backfield.
What you just said right there about Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield, that's what I'm most intrigued by, right? So right now his receiving prop is at 22.5. It feels really low. I've got him projected here for 3 catches for 25. So I like the over in terms of the receiving yards. San Francisco is bottom 10 in receptions and receiving yards allowed to running backs since week number 10. So if you're going to get him somewhere, it's kind of sort of out of the backfield. And what does that tell you? Oh, that's going to be a little bit of Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, again, 5th fewest rushing yards, but man, out of the backfield, they do give it up. So I think Jahmyr Gibbs might have a really good day out of the backfield here as a pass catcher.
What about Amon-Ra St. Brown? Because we all think, and understandably so, that he should pretty much eat no matter who is the matchup. And you know that the Niners secondary can be gotten the number 86.5 receiving yards.
I really like it. And I'll go ahead and take the over on that. Okay, ASRB has been over this line in 5 of his last 6 games, and it's not the worst matchup in the world, guys. San Francisco a lot softer out of the slot than they are on the outside. Niners about league average when it comes to receptions, completion percentage allowed to slot receivers, and they have not seen good slot receivers, by the way. Okay, so Amon-Ra St. Brown, if he's working on the inside, perfect placement for him. He gets to avoid the outside coverage, and he gets to work on the inside. I think he's going to eat. To me, I feel like he's going to get 90-plus in this one. So, again, 85 or 86.5, depending on where you look. I love that line for him.
All right, James, this time next week, when we're talking, who are the 2 teams in the Super Bowl that we're talking about?
Listen, I think San Francisco is going to absolutely smash Detroit. Where Detroit is weak, this is where San Francisco is strong, right? Like, they'd run a lot of man coverage, and Brock Purdy destroys man coverage, right? We're talking about a dude in terms of Brock Purdy with 19 passing touchdowns versus just 1 interception versus man coverage. Brock Purdy's going to destroy this defense. I think he goes crazy. And I think just, again, Shanahan owns Goff, man. He just owns him. So I love Detroit in this game. I think they cover the 7 points there pretty easily. Man, and I know Baltimore's the 1 seed, but man, it's the Mahomes magic in a playoff spot. And I just love Andy Reid. I love Mahomes in this spot. I know they're a dog in this one, but go ahead and give me Chiefs money line.
Like, when did you, in your mind, know that this team was going to be as good as they are, or if you did know? And then how much pressure do you think that they carry with them, considering that this is the first successful team that they've had in this century?
Well, it's kind of an inflection point when you bring up that game, because that is actually, you go back to that date, the Lions have not lost 2 games in a row since that date. And that's pretty good in the NFL. That's hard to do. That put them at 1-5 when they lost that game. And after that game, their owner, Sheila Hamp, came out and doubled down on the head coach and the general manager. And people were starting to wonder at that point. They'd been 3-13-1 their first year. They were 1-5 after that Miami game. But she came out, doubled down on them, said, we're rebuilding this thing. We knew it was going to be tough. We took it down to the studs, and we're building it back up. We believe in what we're doing. We're seeing some results, even if the final scores aren't indicating that in terms of wins and losses. And then they went out and lost the next week, and you're like, oh, man, we've seen this before. And then they started winning, and they won 8 out of 10 to close the season. So I think that was the first time that we started to believe that there was something really good happening here. And then I think that there's that question of if you're going to come back this year and build on what you did last year, or you're just going to kind of fade back into 500 or something below that. And they come out on opening night and beat the Chiefs. You know, I understand the Chiefs didn't have a couple of guys, but you went into Kansas City on a night that they hung the banner and the season opened and you beat them. And that was a big deal for this football team. Now, came back, lost the next week to Seattle, but they got on a roll after that. And, you know, just the way they've started this season, the way they've played on the road where they've been 6-3, the growth that you've seen in the young players. And I think every step they take is just proof of where they are and more confidence for this team. And there have been a lot of them this year, from winning a division for the first time in 30 years to having a home playoff game for the first time in 30 years to winning a playoff game for the first time in 32 years to having 2 home playoff games for the first time in the history of the franchise. But just checking boxes as they go, and every one they check just, you know, gives you more belief. Pressure, look, I don't know if there's any more pressure. These guys getting a win over the Rams was probably massive pressure. I think they all wanted to do it just to get that monkey off their back. They wanted to do it for Jared Goff. They wanted to do it for these fans. And they come out and do it again. So I'm sure, like every team in the league, they feel some of that. But I think it also, the fact that they've had success in the postseason has allowed them to relax a little bit. And now you go into San Francisco where they know it's going to be a heck of a test and a heck of a team that's in front of them. But, look, they've played good teams. They've played well on the road this year. I think they go in there comfortable and ready to play, and I think they'll put on a good show. I think they're going to play really well.